The International Association for Near-Death Studies presents NDE Radio, a weekly exploration of near-death experiences and similar encounters with the other side. Now, here's your host, Lee Witting.
Welcome to NDE Radio. I'm your host, Lee Witting. Our guest today, Lorna Byrne, was born into a poor family near Dublin, Ireland, but she was blessed from infancy with a vision to see the angels that surround us every day. Indeed, Lorna found the angels so playfully distracting that when she was 2, doctors told her parents she was retarded. As a result, growing up, she was treated as being different from the other children. At first, she assumed everyone could see the angels, and she even played with the spirit of her deceased brother, Christopher, thinking he was alive, until one day she touched him and saw showers of little stars as their spirits merged. At one point, Christopher explained to Lorna that when babies die, they stay with their mothers as long as they're needed. Lorna has written, "With angels, I'm in the presence of tremendous power. Sometimes they're like flames of fire, yet with shape and solidarity and radiant eyes." Along with her constant guardian angel, Angels Michael and Hoses are 2 regular visitors. She has said Angel Michael is there to protect, and his eyes are so bright it's like passing through time itself. And she once described Angel Hoses as wearing a blue swirling robe and looking like a young professor. Here are just a few of the many facts the angels early on shared with Lorna. God has assigned everyone in the world, regardless of faith, a guardian angel, radiant and caring and beautiful. Children can see angels until they learn to talk. There are millions of unemployed angels waiting to be of help, and whenever we call God's name, we empower the angels. One time, an angel touched her palm, and the light grew into a face the angel said was the mother of creation. Her face would explode into millions of tiny streams. Churches, mosques, synagogues, houses of worship of all faiths are filled with angels who pray with the people. But angels say all who worship should be under one roof. When a bird she was caring for died, Lorna saw the bird's spirit fly away, huge and golden, and to cheer her from her loss, her hair got ruffled and she was told, "You are my human angel, my bird of love." Lorna Byrne, welcome to NDE Radio.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be talking with you, Lee. I'd say it's going to be quite interesting.
Yes, I'm sure it is. I've looked forward to this for some time now. Lorna, there are a million things we could talk about, but since this is a show primarily about near-death experience, I wonder if you would begin by telling us about your near and sure death experiences and what you've seen of heaven.
It's, what way would I start? I suppose maybe just tell you about the ones that are in the book, but I have many have happened on different occasions. I always say, I look healthy and strong, and the doctors to say, "Lorna, you're a miracle. We don't know how you're here." I always remember the one that, when I was pregnant and, my soul going with my baby to heaven and being told I couldn't go, I had to go back. And just seeing that beautiful angel standing in front of me, I would say like in a human way at the gates of heaven. And,
yes.
As I went through that tunnel of light and it twisted, it curved and, then being stopped by this angel and just seeing this incredible angel, so bright, but yet, so much love and tenderness coming from the angel, and the angel having its arms reached out, to take my baby and just telling me I couldn't go, it wasn't my time. And of course I knew I couldn't, but I still wanted to, because when your human body dies, there's no pain, there is just love. It's so incredible. And that's one thing I would love people to understand is, it's only your human body dies, you live, and heaven does exist. God exists, angels do. And each and every one of us has, that soul, that spark of light of God. And on that particular day, even looking back down through that light, through that tunnel, and seeing Joe begging me to come back, because I had died for a moment. But that is, I suppose, because I left my little baby in heaven, and just remembering his smile, and his blue eyes looking up at me while I was standing in front of the angel and handing my baby over and coming back.
One thing that you've described is how our guardian angels carry the soul of a deceased person up to heaven. And you were the child's guardian angel, weren't you, in that instance?
In that instance, yes, my soul went with my baby at that time, and that is one wonderful thing I have often seen many, many times. Is what would I say in that tunnel? That spirals. It always seems to spiral, and just seeing souls going to heaven and their guardian angel with them. Sometimes the guardian angel is actually carrying the soul, and to me that's full of so much tenderness and love, or the holding hands, or you see the guardian angel, them in conversation together, the soul and the guardian angel. It's just so incredible. And I love hearing that more and more people are having near-death experiences, because I think it changes your outlook on life.
What other visions of heaven have you had during your NDEs?
Well, another one which I describe in the book, and I don't know if people realize that's what it is, was another time when my soul was taken from my body and I was brought to heaven. And I was brought to, how can I describe? I tried to describe it so many times in the book. It was like this mountain, but the mountain was like sand. And on top of the mountain was this beautiful tree. And I'm kind of shy, so I'm shy into saying it. That's my hesitance. But every time I go to heaven, my soul is brought there, I become a child again, because we are all children. And I was there and now I'm shy again, to play with God, to play with Jesus. And that's what we did. We climbed the tree, we stepped through the roots. I never wrote everything about it, and we rolled down the hill, the sand. And I always remember Jesus saying, let's see who will get up the hill first, and I said I would, and I went, and of course he allowed me get there first. But there is another part I never wrote about, and that was, how can I say this? I'm asking God, can I tell a little? But I climbed the tree with God, the two of us. We were both children, and up in the enormous branches, and looking out upon the universe, seeing Earth and seeing everybody. It was like, how would I say, it's just so hard to describe. Heaven is, when you go to heaven, when your soul goes there, it doesn't want to come back. I give out to God every single time when I have to come back. I say, but I don't want to. Why would I? Because you're free from everything in that way. But many of us are sent back, and I think most of the time it is, I would say you're being given a second chance. It could be to be more loving and caring. It could be, to unite your family together. It could be to write your experience. It could be to, just to let your family know that, you have a soul. It's that spiritual connection that we all have. It's that supernatural power that we're, in a sense, all afraid of and we run from. But yet we are, what would you say, crazy, wanting to know more about it in that way.
Yes.
And just another time when I had, again, I'm kind of shy, hesitant, when I had major surgery, I was gone for 10 minutes. I was in intensive care, something like for 2 weeks. They had me on everything, and I always remember the surgeon coming around when I had eventually was able to breathe on my own. And he said to me, what's your name? Because he did not expect me to even know my name. Where do you live? And he was absolutely shocked, but delighted. but that was a time I went to heaven as well. And how would I say this? I was everywhere in a sense. God helps our souls to adjust back to heaven as well. Allows us to see and to feel and to touch everything that you loved in this world. That's the only way I can describe it. So I can tell you, I was at a waterfall with all of the angels. God was with me, Our Lady was with me. Every soul of every faith in the world, and even those that would say they had none at that time. Heaven is incredible. There is no words, and I know many of us, describe the visions of what God allows you to remember, to give us encouragement. I remember the flowers being so big, so radiant. But another thing is that our flowers and our planet here on Earth is so, so beautiful as well.
Wow.
So I hope that has helped. I just love hearing when people have a near-death experience. I don't know if you've had one yourself.
When I was 7, I drowned and had one.
Drowned.
Yes.
And what was your experience?
Well, it wasn't. I was my 7-year-old body was at the bottom of a lake, but my soul was up in a birch tree as I watched my mother rush down to the shore and dive in. She found me, found my body, dragged me out, and threw me face down over a log and pumped on my back to get the water out of my lungs, she said. But she basically invented CPR in the process because the log under me was doing chest compressions, and that got my heart started again. And I had a bit of memory of traveling toward the light, but I never really got there. I was so caught up in my mother's love and her caring, and not only her love, but that she was something I had never realized at 7 years old, that she was a channel for God's love to me. And so I had to go back in my body. I just had to be there with her. So.
Well, that is beautiful. That, that connection of the love between your mom and yourself. You chose your mom to be your mom, and you loved her unconditionally. And just the thoughts of seeing you sitting on a branch in a tree, your soul, just watching and knowing I'm not going anywhere. Hurry up, Mom. Fix my body for me. That is beautiful. You would hear many stories from children that, have had near-death experiences. I remember one doctor telling me that, sometimes when they would lose a child during surgery and bring them back, and they would ask the child later on, do you remember anything? They'd ask it in a way that the child wouldn't realize they'd been asked the question. And the child would usually answer, I was in a beautiful place. I was playing with with angels, or they would say, I was swimming, I was in the boat, I was flying, there was light all around me. There would be so many stories that the surgeons would be told.
I wanted to ask you about a vision you had on Moore Street when you were shopping for vegetables with your mom, that suddenly it was as if this vegetable market turned into paradise.
Yeah, that was incredible. That all started with, that's where we always went to get the fruit, because it was the cheapest place to go. And I always remember the bag of fruit bursting, and the lady, had put bad apples into it and all of that kind of
Yes.
thing. But the other part was just seeing what the angels did. All the light, all the energy, I know I tried to describe it the best I could in the book, just burst forth into the air, just all colours, like stars, like balls. They were bouncing all over the place. And just watching as well at that time, the guardian angel of everyone. Mm. Was just me as a child. I loved it, and I wanted to turn and tell my mom, can you not see this? Does anyone know what's happening here? And that's my life every day. God shows me so many, many things, and the angels, and even when I was little, and the soul of my little brother, who I didn't know at the time, had died. To me, I was only 2.5 or whatever, and he was just my little brother, and I was playing with him. Yeah. And just when our hands touched, I know you described it there was just so many sparks and light, and I felt so much love. And that was when the angels told me, I must keep it a secret, but that my little brother had died before I was born. And it was like, in that moment, I understood why sometimes I saw my little brother as an infant in my mom's lap when she'd be asleep in front of the fire. Sometimes this old armchair she'd sit in, and she'd just fall asleep. And sometimes he would be older than me as well. And telling that story has helped so many parents in the world, knowing that their baby, their little child, regardless of what age, is still alive. And I think that's why God allows near-death experience to happen for people, to help to give us more spiritual connection and more understanding that you're not just, flesh and blood. You're a human being, which I always have to remind God over and over again. I just say, I'm a human as well, don't forget that bit. But you have this spiritual side, this soul, that's that spark of light of God. And to me, that's the most incredible thing that we have. And since I was a child, and the angels teaching me, they have been my teachers, my best friends, everything, teach me everything I know. And if I can see angels and see the energy and see so much that I don't even talk about, I can't see any reason why you can't. Honestly, I just, I just say, what's wrong? But I think part of it is, what would you say, we're conditioned, and people are conditioned to believe in things in a certain way. It's like as if they're in a box and you should be able to open it and you should have it there and then, in that way. Where with myself, I suppose I wasn't conditioned, because I'm, that word, dyslexic, did I get it right?
Dyslexic.
Yeah. And way back then in Ireland, if a child had any learning difficulty, they were just kind of ignored and considered retarded. It was kind of, put in a corner. But I had, the angels had just, and I don't know why God chose me. Why didn't he choose you? I literally don't know.
He chose me to interview you.
He
And
chose
so,
me to do this. Yes, definitely.
and so there we go. I want to touch briefly on the presence of evil and the story that you told about going fishing with your father, and a storm came up and you went into a dilapidated building.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. I suppose as you know, I don't like talking about this part.
Yes.
But that was the time I was a kid again, and I was out with my dad fishing, and it just started to lash rain. I always remember that riverbank. It was kind of high in places, and there was lots of trees, and the ground was uneven, and we had to kind of run through it and make our way. And I was following my dad, and every now and then he'd look back, and he just saw this old kind of cottage that was half fallen down. It had a door, and I always remember that door looking like as if it was closed, and my dad pushing it open, and we going inside, and I was very scared because the angels, as I was moving along, the angels were telling me something wasn't right. I was going to experience something, but they don't always give me much information. I have to experience it humanly as well as spiritually, and that's another thing I give out to God about. Why couldn't you tell me more? Then I wouldn't kind of be so scared or jump back, or in that way. But when my dad burst open that door, one thing I always remember was, how would I say, the gusts of air, the coldness in it. And yet in another way it felt warm because it felt like a shelter. We were sheltered from the storm outside, and the chair and the table, and my dad, going to light a little fire. And then, things changed. It didn't like us being there. It was what one would call, I have to try and pronounce the word, poltergeist, if
Yes.
I'm pronouncing it right.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Didn't want us there. And I was all the time, looking around, and, it moved quite fast. And then, my dad all of a sudden knew something was wrong. He picked up on it. And I was kind of scared to tell him, and I knew we would be safe because the angels were telling me, it's okay, you will be safe, we'll protect you. And of course, in a child's mind, I was saying as well, what about my dad in that way? But I knew he'd be protected. But I always remember when he did get the fire lighting, it bursting up into flames, not in the way that you would light a fire, like as if suddenly there was gas there or something, a jet of gas or something in that way. And, the chair being flung across the room, and even the table being moved, and it was scary. I was scared as a human being, regardless of the angels.
Yes, of course.
I was scared, and I always remember my dad just grabbing his bag, the fishing bag, the stuff, grabbing it and grabbing me, and we literally legging it out of there. And it was like, in a sense, I know I didn't write all of this in the book because I was always afraid I'd scare people. God would say, only so much, in little bits. But I always remember, when we went out the door, and my dad moved so fast and he pulling me along with him, I didn't feel cold anymore. I felt warm. It was like as if the rain didn't bother us anymore. And then later on, the sun came out. I don't know how quickly it came out. but it didn't want us there at all. But I remember saying a prayer and asking for it to be gone, and of course I would always ask for it to be loved.
I think in the book you described it, or an angel described it to you as a creature that had no soul.
Yeah.
How can such a thing be? Did you ask the angels that?
I never asked them that. It's like some creatures, in a sense, it's like part of creation has no soul like what we have. And yet I could only feel, even though I was scared and terrified, even with the angels there, I could only feel love. I only wanted, it was like I could feel its pain, its suffering. And I just wanted to, in a sense, even talking about it now, I just want, it to be loved. And I have asked, and I have been told that God took it to some place where it is loved. And I don't know where that is, so I can't answer every question.
No.
I'm not told everything, but I have been told a huge amount. And I always have to get permission. Can I tell more? What can I tell?
Yes. I want to ask you one more question about evil, and then we'll get off the subject. Okay. I promise. You describe in your book a time when Satan was at the gate. Tell us about that.
That's a hard one. Where will I start? I suppose I was told that, Satan would be coming. God didn't even have to say the name. I knew. And it took months and months and months. I don't know how long it took, but every time it got closer. I could feel it getting closer, if you can understand. It's like he was a million miles away. And I'll say he because I always say he, a million miles away. And it's like I could feel the journey of him coming closer and closer over time. And eventually Satan being at the gate of the garden, was a like a farm gate, but it was halved in that way. And knowing he was there and just waiting for, it was very scary, but I had to trust God, and I did. I trusted God, and I had the faith, even though it was again terrifying, but the poltergeist was nothing on this whatsoever. And then when it did happen, Joe was asleep. The angels awoke me and skipping lots of it. And just seeing him in the room, he'd come in, I could feel him coming in, when he came through the gate, up the yard, in the door, I feel it step. And then standing there, and God was on my right. And I had to say, 3 times, I trust in God. And it was like having that faith just made him go. I was being tested, between good and evil. I was being tested in a sense to keep the balance. It's the only other way I can explain it, to keep that balance. And I just thank God that I succeeded, even though in the world today it's hard to see that balance. So it was, and just to see, it was just such darkness, such evil. I can't, even in the book, I couldn't put it into words, and just to see what I called the eyes, just red. That was the only colour I could put on it, but every time, I denied the darkness, the evil. It just kept moving back and reaching out, and, God's fingers touching God's hand, just giving me the strength to do that, and for the balance to be kept. It was hard. It wasn't easy, but I would do it for mankind again, any day. Anything God asks me to do, I will do.
And I think that's why it's important for you to tell that story, because people do encounter evil and don't know how to deal with it. And you dealt with it just the way it should be dealt with. So that will be of benefit to some listeners out there, I'm sure. Okay. You saw the angel of mother's love. Tell us about that.
Oh, an angel of mother's love. That's the queen of angels. What we call the mother of God, the mother of all souls. And that happened when I was living in Maynooth, and I was married. And to make the story short, again, I was being told that, a special angel was going to come. And sometimes when I'm told that by Archangel Michael or one of the other angels, it doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. Months could pass, even years could pass. And then all of a sudden, I know today is the day, or it's getting closer. And I always remember, being in the kitchen, leaving the room. I'm making it a bit shorter, and all of the angels there, and being told, and opening the door into the other room, and there she was, the Queen of Angels, just standing there, just so radiant. The only way I could describe her dress is like a fiery red, all those colors, and the crown on her head, and her hair, and just her eyes. And it was, the hair was plaited, but it was like, like silk threads plaited in with what I would call emeralds, diamonds, whatever. I didn't know what they really looked like, but this is what they just, and that crown on her head. And just when she said, did I know who she was? I did in my heart. And she told me, she was the Queen of Angels, the Queen of mankind, the Queen of all souls, the Mother of God. She's there to intercede for us. She's not just the Queen of Angels. And I know people think that, but no, not just the Queen of Angels. And I saw her many times as a child as well. One time I was playing on the swing, and the angels came, and this beautiful angel put this little kind of, what would you call it? Just like a little diamond. It was snow white, a little stone, a feather. You could call it anything. I couldn't quite make out. So sometimes these things, you have to kind of put a human name on them. But I remember when it went into the palm of my hand, and looking at it and holding it out like this, and, it getting bigger and going up into the sky, and seeing the Queen of Angels, and seeing her holding a child as well, and at times, just looking down at me and just smiling. And this has happened on many occasions as well. Sometimes I do feel the stories run into each other in one sense. I think we should all, in a sense, at different times, just like the archangels, just call on the angels to help us, because we need help. And God has been pouring down the unemployed angels still today. Like, as I to say, he's God has shown me, like as if he turns a bucket upside down and they come tumbling down. And just to see these angels tumbling down from the sky. And as they get closer, and close enough for me to see, how would I say, they're coming down like a ball. If you can imagine, they're rolled up like that. And they start to unroll, if you can imagine, and stand up, and they're coming to earth. They're here to help us.
I love that image. That's beautiful. Let me jump back a minute and ask you, what would the relationship of the Queen of Angels have to Mary, Jesus' mother?
That's it.
The same, one and the same. Does that mean that we have the capacity to become angels? Can humans become angels?
That's one question I think is so beautiful. A parent will say, my child's an angel in heaven, or a husband or wife will say, my beautiful wife is an angel in heaven. But your child or your husband or wife or your friend is more than any angel ever could be, because they have a soul, that spark of light of God. I used to feel, what would you say, embarrassed in one sense when I would be, asked about what are angels. And I was told to always repeat the same thing. Angels were created by God long ago. But we ourselves are more than any angel ever could be. You are part of God. You're a little piece of God that is so tiny, but yet so enormous. And that's another reason why the angels love to be around us. And another reason why we, sometimes we can feel or hear the soul of a loved one. Or we recognize the signs. The angels often call them in, someone that you love to be in and around you to help to get your attention. And that's because the soul lived in a human body for a period of time and loves you dearly.
Nice. I want to ask you about the joys and sorrows of prophecy. When you were only 10, was it the angel Elijah showed you your red-headed Joe, the man you were going to marry and have children with? At 10, that's a hard thing to learn. And then on top of that he was going to die a young man. I wonder, I think in the book you say it was too early, it was too much, too soon to hear that, and stayed with you forever. Have you had other prophecies that give you that same trepidation?
Yes, all the time I have been shown so many wonderful futures for the world. And I would say so many, because all those wonderful futures come together as one. And it's our choice. It's our free will again. So I give out to God about that. So I know that we can make this world like a little glimpse of heaven. We can make this world just so beautiful, for all of us in every single way. And that doesn't mean just, this planet. It's all that God has given us. And to me, that is incredible. And yes, that was one of the first. But God had shown me many different things about Joe that I would know, and even about my own children, and even in a sense of, how could I say it, where I would be, like when I was being shown from the time I was a child that, I would write, I would give talks, I would travel the world, and that people would listen, but not all. To me, I used to just say to God, and sometimes the Archangel Michael, go away, that's all crazy. I can't even read or write. How on earth could that happen? And each time when things would unfold, and to see it happening, like even, the first book, Angels in My Hair, and putting stuff on tape, and, then as things unfolded and a publisher coming and it becoming a bestseller, just my life has changed so much, but I just want to do what God has asked me to do and give the messages to you all. And I do pray that as many listen, because there is other things that I do. What way will I put this? I'm being allowed to say it. The silent blessing I give. I can't tell you everything, but the silent blessing I give when someone stands in front of me, and now I have been doing it online as well, and I ask God, do they receive it? That's very important spiritually for mankind as well.
Yes.
Here I'm saying to myself, what prophecy do you want to know?
I would love to know that things turn out okay. We're facing such an environmental crisis at this time, and so many egos are striving for power in the midst of democracies that should work. There's so many things that we mess up ourselves. This beautiful Garden of Eden that God gave us, this earth, is so incredibly lovely, and it breaks my heart sometimes to think of climate warming to the point where we can't restore things. If you have a prophecy that's gives hope to our future, to our children's future, I'd love to hear it.
One I have been shown is that we do make this world like a little glimpse of heaven. We do save our planet. We do save ourselves, and we grow spiritually. We change, and in that one is where I saw the children cross the river without a bridge.
Oh.
And others I was shown where, moms and dads, everyone, you and I, whoever's there with you, and you go into the room they're in, you will see their guardian angel and they will see yours. It's like communication will be so strong. But I know in the meantime, we are fighting each other. And even I was praying to God, last night all about this, when will mankind stop hurting ourselves? Why are we killing ourselves? Why are we fighting? Why are we doing all of these things? But I do believe there is so many wonderful, good people out there that are reaching in spiritually to change, to make the difference. And at the moment, I think children are so open. They're more open than what adults think.
Yes.
They're more open, but we shouldn't be putting a big weight on their shoulders. It's like the older adult, you and me, and the generation that's a bit behind us and all of that. We should be coming together as one and taking the steps. I know we still have time, but that time depends on how we get moving to make this world like a little glimpse of heaven, to come together as one. It's like we become, one nation. And even though lots of people will give out when I say this, but America has a huge role to play in this as well. And I believe mankind can do it. I won't give up. I'll keep hammering on the door, just like you're here to do the interview now. So I know you will keep hammering on the door as well to help to get the word out there. We can change. We
Yes.
are not just human beings, but we're spiritual beings. And we are incredible. We don't realize how incredible we are, and of all the things we can do. I would love to share more, but I'm not being allowed.
In that story, you said, look at a flower, and an angel opened Joe's eyes to see this energy rolling off of the flower, the way heavenly flowers are seen. And I thought, if that's within the capacity of angels to give gifts of vision to ordinary doubting people like Joe was, then couldn't their cooperation enhance and speed up our learning, our ability to learn how things work, how the world of love really works?
Yes, and the thing is, they do every day, but in a sense, we are, what would you say, closed. We're afraid.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of, oh, I'll be only laughed at and jeered. If I say to anyone, one thing that I always find amazing is that the angels are doing that all of the time. For all of us. And you should ask your angel to help you. And at times when I have someone standing beside me and they say to me, Lorna, I would love to be able to see some energy physically, and I say, okay, and I look around and I say, can you see the energy over there? And the amazing thing is that 99.9% of people will kind of say, oh God, yes, I can see it.
So all we have to do is tell them that their capacity to see it is there, and with that kind of encouragement.
Yeah, it is there, and I suppose that's why, that other miracle that I was shown, that other prediction, how would I say it, that I would have a place in Ireland, the sanctuary, so I can help people of all faiths, even those of none, everyone, to be able to open up more. And I suppose one thing is to remember that the angels have always taught me everything out in nature.
Yeah.
And, it's not something in a box. You can be standing in front of someone and I could say to you, tell me what you see, open your eyes, allow your spiritual self to see through the eyes of your soul. Open your eyes, allow it to happen. And it does happen for a lot of people. But I think what happens is, when people go away, they kind of, well, I won't bother to see the energy there. I'm too busy now. I'm too caught up in the world in all those material things. But I always find that sometimes when I'm out and I see children playing with energy, and the parents are wondering, oh, they're just, running their hand over that flower or that plant, or and they're actually playing with the energy. They're enjoying it, and many children would say to me, yes, they do see angels, but they are afraid to say it out loud, again, because they might be laughed at by other children who are, in a sense, through no fault of their own, their parents are, and education is just saying everything has to be solid, like the desk here in front of me, the chair you're sitting on. If it's not solid, it's not real.
And of course, it's not solid. It's atoms that have huge spaces between them.
Yes, and I think science is learning a lot about it as well.
Yes, I hope at some point that religion and science will converge on the truth, that they're coming at it from different directions. But at some point, if it's truth, then it's going to be.
I believe it will. I'll let you in on a little secret. God has me working on that with someone else. So that's, and when that book comes out and those theories come out, we'll let you know.
Well, yes.
Ahead of time.
We'll have to have you back on the show to talk some more about that. Are your angels available right now? Would Michael or Hoses like to say something to you?
Well, I will let you ask Archangel Michael a question, and if he answers it, I will give it to you.
Right. Well, I love Archangel Michael. I chose Michael as my confirmation name when I was 12 years old. Why do you carry a sword?
Why do you carry a sword? Just said to, how can I put it, to protect mankind.
Is evil a force to be reckoned with by weaponry?
No. The force to reckon with evil is love.
Yes. Can Angel Michael be with you and with thousands of other people at the same time?
Yes, and that is something that I find, incredible. Archangel Michael can be standing beside me, spending time with me, and yet be with millions of people around the world. But an archangel like Archangel Michael can't be anyone's guardian angel. The archangels are seemingly there for everyone equally.
And many people of many different faiths, when they have a near-death experience, say that they meet Jesus. Can Jesus be with millions of people at the same, millions of souls who perhaps have passed on at the same time?
I know I have. I think I've written it in Angels at My Fingertips. I get mixed up what book a little bit has gone into. Your soul is that spark of light of God. God had shown me him creating a soul, taking a little piece and using the symbol of a human heart from his heart and putting it into the palm of his hand, and it growing. And that was incredible. You are part of God. And I know mankind doesn't grasp that at the moment. But if you could just think about it, your soul, and you go back to God. You go back to what sometimes we call the Creator, depending on what religion you are. It's the one God. And I love that, because that's, one thing that worried me when I was, doing the recordings for the first book and everything like that. And as it was being typed out, and just saying to God, I'm going to be ridiculed and laughed at. What am I to call you, And am I to call you Jesus? Am I to call you Holy One? Am I to call you Lord? Just so many names I named out. And what surprised me when God turned around and said to me, Lorna, what do you call me? And I was so surprised. I just kind of looked. God, of course, what are you saying that for? In that way. And he said, yes, call me God. Because the word God is universal. Everyone knows who you're talking about.
And yet when people pray to the different names of God in the world, he hears all those prayers.
He hears all those prayers. Prayers are so, so powerful. I always give the message that, prayer can move mountains. We don't pray enough. We don't ask enough. Sometimes a prayer can be just the uttering of a word, help. It could be, but it's like it comes from your heart. It comes from every particle of you humanly, and comes from your soul, like in one go. I try to describe that in so many different ways, praying with every being of yourself.
And that's when all of those waiting angels rush in to help us, isn't it?
Yes.
Tell us about your sanctuary project.
That again is one of those prophecies, as you called it. From the time I was a child, I'll skip loads of it, just being shown that this would happen. And of course, in one sense, humanly, I have to say this, I just kind of say to God, I don't believe a word of it, in that way. And then when it happened, it just blew me away. I always remember, being shown these pillars, these gates. And then one time before Joe died, driving down to here where I am now, where I live now in the old farmhouse, and Archangel Michael was standing at these two pillars. And he just said, this is it. This would be the place. And I always remember Joe reaching out. He was driving, reaching out and touching me and saying, are you okay? And I said, yeah, fine. Just passed it off. And every time we passed those two pillars, that gate, there was always angels standing there. But I have to say, I never put two and two together. I was busy, and Joe wasn't well. I was rearing children, and years and years and years passed, and Joe had died. And skipping lots more of the story, just this person I met, I was giving a talk, and they had come to the talk, a husband and wife, and the wife was waving, to ask, so she could ask her question. And eventually, I already knew, I have to say, that the couple in the audience had something to tell me, but I was afraid of it. I'm always afraid, I'm shy that way, one step gentle in that way. And when I said, okay, you ask your question, she said, oh no, I don't want to ask a question. My husband has a question for you. And he asked the question. I can't tell you what that is. But seemingly I answered. I gave him the right answer. And again, it took, this is God's, unfolding it. It took years for him and his wife to find to contact us. And that's a real long story as well. And I was given it a gift. So I'm blown away in that sense. But it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the world. And it is to help to teach you and everyone out there just to take that next step spiritually. For you to allow the angels to open your eyes, for you to allow yourself to see through the eyes of your soul. You're not just a human being. And it's a project in, what would you say, I don't know how to say it, but evolving. Yeah.
Ongoing, evolving.
Yeah. So we need plenty of help.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was my next question. Yeah. How could listeners find out more about your project, Sanctuary, and how they could contribute to it?
I think how they can find out is, go online, go onto the website, and they will see the word sanctuary. There'll be other things as well, yes. Because I have a children's foundation as well. And there they will learn about it. And I'm very shy to talk about it.
You've done beautifully.
Because in a sense, how can I say, it doesn't belong to me. One thing that God had told me, and between God and myself, we agreed that I would only say this number, that if mankind responds properly to it, it'll still be there in 300 years' time, and then you can go a stretch. That's the way I'll put it, in that way. And I always remember God saying to me so many, many times that many are called, few are chosen, and a lot of those few that are chosen say no. Most of them say no, but that couple said yes. I'm very shy to talk about it, to be honest.
Lorna, you've explained it beautifully. And I think enough to provoke folks who are curious to follow through and check out your website.
Okay.
Lorna, we are pretty much out of time, but before we go, I'd like to thank your daughter Pearl and your other daughter who came and helped with the technology. What's her name?
Aideen.
And also my associate producer, Lilia Samoilo, who has made this interview possible.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful to her for that. And most of all, I'm grateful to you, Lorna, for sharing your incredible NDE stories and your angel experiences with us. So tell your listeners where they can find your books. And
Pearl told me to, don't forget to mention, she said, you're doing an online course with the Open Center on the 17th of July, but I'm actually going to America, to New York, and I'm going to be in person at the Omega on the 24th and the 22nd and the 24th in New York, if I pronounced that properly. And then I will be going to, The Art of Living, North Carolina, on the 29th and the 31st of October. So I'm doing live events in those two places. So if anyone wants to come and see me in person, that's as much as I know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you and all your listeners. And I'm looking forward to meeting you all again in person, not just online.
Well, if not in America, then in Ireland. I'd love to come over sometime.
Yes.
I've not been there before. If listeners would like to hear this show again, or any of our more than 400 archived NDE interviews, please go to TalkZone's NDE Radio and hit the past shows button, or subscribe to our YouTube channel, NDE Radio with Lee Witting, where you can listen and comment on the complete NDE radio library. And for something completely different, be sure to like, follow, and share our new NDE Radio Facebook page, and discover our Facebook group and links to our YouTube channel while you're there. Just search NDE Radio with Lee Witting on your Facebook app with your desktop or mobile device, and listen next Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern on TalkZone for more NDE Radio. I'm your host, Lee Witting, saying thanks for listening.